Alright everyone, it's time for the Occult video number 254. Bring back Superstition, a little bit of an appeal to people to stop being so humorless, because I've noticed this. Over the last century especially, but really beyond that for several hundred years, in the wake of the Enlightenment to some degree, in the wake of industry mostly, so about 200 years, we've used biology to kill off the dragon, and we've used chemistry to kill off the court mage and the alchemist, and we've steadily sanitized the world as more and more of it has settled and fallen under an axe. There are no old-growth forests in most of the world anymore. The deserts are crisscrossed by highways. As we've pushed back empty space and asserted the Anthropocene era over the entire face of the earth, for the most part, have you noticed this? Our thoughts of escapism have regressed into those last pockets of places on Earth and beyond that cannot be traversed yet by that particular era. For instance, 200 years ago in vogue were tales of witches out in the woods. It must have been very interesting to be on some small New England village that's next to 100 miles of empty wilderness. You could imagine there are dragons, there are giant bears and literal giants and all sorts of strange things, giant cyclops out there wandering through the woods. There are probably unicorns and demons and all sorts of ghosts and evil spirits. It must have been interesting, especially since people back then drank constantly. It was called pot beer. They constantly were tipsy. They drank, something not that much weaker than Bud Light, only not, necessarily carbonated, basically all day long. Sometimes they would spike it with wine, and then at the end of the day they'd have a couple of real ales, and they'd get even more drunk. They were sometimes delusional from malnutrition as well, or from the various chemicals they used as medicine. I feel so sick, Doc. I've been taking the arsenic and mercury you prescribed. I don't know why I'm not better. By the way, the quack medicine angle, yeah, modern science it's right to displace that. However, have you not noticed the increasing reliance of mankind upon those last few places that we haven't sort of penetrated? Just for psychological reasons. I don't think that humankind's, for example, if we could quantify that the universe were totally empty of life other than ourselves, I think that we would just commit mass suicide. I think that we would lose hope in existence itself, become so nihilistic we'd just say fuck it. We'd press the little red button just for play. It would be interesting too. Anyway. I don't expect that to be the case. I think that there are alien civilizations and life on other planets and so forth. It's just not anywhere near us and probably doesn't actively interact with us, at least regularly. But we've regressed into our escapism. The escapism we've always used for nominal humor and just general fantasy for entertainment. It's gone away from the tropes of the past and it's entered a new era. So we constantly look to three things, basically. The deepest oceans, which we haven't penetrated yet, kind of like the ice caps and stuff, but usually the oceans. Instead of talking about sea monsters, we might talk about a giant octopus or something, but we talk about those for escapist purposes. Outer space, literally UFOs and aliens, number 2. And number 3, experimental physics, to say, well, reality may be sanitized and materialistic and very nihilistic and maybe there's no purpose, but it's just a computer simulation. So it can be that way, and it's okay, you wake up out of it and you're in a world full of aliens and witches and weird shit. You're in like a video game. And it's possible, too, by the way. I'm not discounting that. It's the ultimate refutation of materialism to propose an escapism that is so far beyond the pale as far as traditional sort of reason and logic and observability go that it can't really be falsified at all. It's almost a replacement for a god that we kept looking for and never found. That is, we 1,000 years ago, they said, well, God's up in the sky. Once we got up in the sky, you realized he wasn't there. Well, God's down the stars. We looked out in the stars. We didn't find God. We looked within ourselves, and we didn't find God. In fact, if you look at maybe the darker ages of the 70s or 80s with its dark introspection permeating and tainting every aspect of life, maybe we found the devil inside ourselves instead. I argue that for pragmatic purposes, we should suspend our disbelief in some of these things and bring back the superstition, literally revive the dragon, so to speak. By the way, and I hate to say it, modern science affords us the opportunity to make all of these fantastic things that we used to think lived in the woods real if we really want to. It's called genomic sequencing, it's called CRISPR, and all of these other things that are in their infancy. We could literally revive dinosaurs. All you'd need to do is take a wild guess about how to build them. They wouldn't be genetically exactly the same, and they wouldn't have a direct lineage, but we would have revived them anyway. We could make a T-Rex tomorrow if we really wanted to. It'd require a lot of machinery to gestate it, I suppose, but we could do that. We can definitely revive the woolly mammoth. It's just a matter of the funding at this point. We've already got the DNA. We can bring back all of the paleo sort of stuff. You want a real paleo diet, start farming mammoths. It'll be like in Skyrim. So we'll make giants too. We'll make like 9-foot tall humanoids, and we'll just make them dumb, and they'll sort of womble around with their mammoth herds. That would be so funny. We can do it if we want. We should suspend our disbelief in such things. If this is all just a sort of a simulation of sorts, well, then anything could be real. It's just programmed. The only reason there aren't dragons flying around is they're programmed not to be flying around. If it's not, let's say that everything is nihilistic. Let's say that there's no God, there's no anything, everything is totally bleak and atheistic. Well, if there's no purpose, we should be able to dream and be happy and do whatever the fuck we want. People should probably wander around tipsy all the time and thinking of unicorns. They should go jousting and go wander off into the woods and hatchet each other. It'd be a better world. Regress to primitivism. I guess Varg will be the Jarl of his realm. The Jarl of Central France. It'd be very funny. And if there are deities or spiritual forces, well, then anything can be possible. If these creative forces that man has envisioned actually exist, then yeah, there can be unicorns. There just aren't right now. Maybe they're on another planet. Maybe it's after Armageddon comes. Maybe it's in the afterlife if it exists. Who knows? I think people should just lighten up, spiritually speaking. People take things too seriously. They wonder, why is the suicide rate rising? Why are people upset all of the time? Why do people have lower satisfactions in their lives despite the fact that they have more wealth? It's because you robbed them of what they could do with their wealth. They used to think if they, went off to some far-off land and found El Dorado, they could ride dragons and weird shit like that and commune with gods. They no longer think they can do that. The only thing that they can accomplish is pure materialism. And that's drained something, I think, out of the human experience. And I think that that's very sad. That's about all. Peace out.